What's up, guys? This is Bradley, and you are listening to the Charm City Sideline podcast. Today, I'm along with Zach, Dawson, and Sutton, a guy that we are very happy to have on. I think this is our fourth time or third.
I want to say it's the third.
Third time having
Oh, wait a
Sutton on this
minute.
season. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
third time.
Yeah, third.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. This is my favorite show. This is my favorite show to be a part of, so I'm ready to go. Let's talk some ball.
Yeah, we love having you on. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm in the group that is feeling pretty confident going into this week, and I'm excited to answer questions. I feel like in the same podcast, maybe someone to my right or to your right is not so confident, or maybe some others. I don't know, but it's gonna be fun to talk this game because it is about to be so exciting. Everyone's watching.
Come on, Zach. Don't put me on blast like that. I never said anything. Oh, man, this is a huge game. I'm super excited. The nerves are high once again like they were before the Steelers game. I might feel a little less confident in this outcome of this game, but I still have faith in our boys, and this is just going to be a big-time juggernaut matchup, dude. I mean, this is like prime football. This is by far the best matchup of the week, so I'm super excited, and I can't wait to talk about this.
Yeah, very excited for this one. I mean, each game at this point just gets more exciting than the last one, in my opinion. Sup, Dawson, XX Beast, and Bikini Bottom. Thanks for being here. First question was from Wonder 5565 10K Aryan and our guy AP Productions. They were all sort of just asking about Zay Flowers and any news on Zay Flowers and if we think he'll play. I'll preface by saying that he did not practice today on Wednesday. And I've seen Rappaport basically say there's an outside chance of Zay Flowers playing on Sunday. Sutton, I'll kick it to you just to get any thoughts you have on this situation.
Yeah, he's not going to play, guys. I mean, I think it's just as simple as that. I mean, no practice by Wednesday probably means that, he's simply just not good enough in order to get back out there and by Sunday. And I was telling Alex this on the Purple Rain podcast a couple of weeks ago, or maybe probably just 1 week ago. Getting Zay Flowers back at less than 100%, because that's the only way we're going to get Zay Flowers back at this point is if he's up like less than 100%. And if he's not 100%, I just don't know how effective he's going to be, because a guy like Zay Flowers, the archetype of receiver that he is, like, he relies heavily on his speed, his shiftiness, his cuts, and things like that. And you need that knee, that LCL that he sprained in order to be able to do that. And if he's not 100%, then I mean, what are we really going to do with him? Is he going to be used as a decoy? He's not going to be used as a guy who's getting his normal average 7 targets a game, because, believe it or not, he commanded 27%, over a quarter of the Ravens' targets in the regular season, which is 7.2 or 3 targets a game. So, I don't think he's going to play. Even if he did play, he wouldn't be 100%, and I don't know how effective he would be. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair to be concerned. Obviously, with Zay Flowers probably not playing. I would agree with Sutton. I think there's a pretty decent chance he's not playing. And honest to God, man, we've talked about this in the previous weeks after this injury happened, that if he's not even like close to 100%, I don't really want him out there. I mean, this is an injury where he could go out there at 70% in a matter of one small tweak or something, and he blows out his knee. And then we're obviously concerned with him missing all next season. So this is a thing where don't risk it if you don't have to, and you just got to hope that the Ravens can advance and get to the AFC Championship, and we have our boy returning at Arrowhead. So also an encouraging sign would be the offense stepped up in a big way without him against Pittsburgh, and if they can do that once again, man, it would be amazing, especially in a really tough atmosphere as far as, going to Orchard Park.
I'm going to be your little glance of optimism. I'm hopelessly optimistic that he plays. I think it was Schefter who said maybe Monday on Pat McAfee show that there's a chance, whether maybe that's a 4% chance or a 1% chance. Shoot, I'll take it. I like the odds. And if we can't do it, I have trust in the weapons that we have and really the game plan going forward, because if it's going to be 8 degrees, it's going to suck to bring Derrick Henry down just as much as it sucked for them to bring him down week 4. So I think it sucks with not having him, especially for the second consecutive game. There's a lot of game plan out there, a whole game's worth of dominant game plan where we won and won how we wanted to. So I don't know. There's something out there for the Bills to watch. It's just how much more do we have in the bag?
Yeah, it's been kind of funny the past week and a half or so. Zach and I have been going at it a little bit, talking about the injury. Zach's very optimistic about it, and I'm sort of on the other end. Just like my take on it, Sutton, you kind of took the words out of my head. Like Zay Flowers, like the Tyreek Hill types of receivers, those guys need all their ligaments intact more than anyone else in the league, like maybe corners along with them. And like Zay Flowers not at 100%, like you'd rather just have a healthy receiver out there combined with the fact he can suffer a major injury. So kind of just all those things combined work into it for me. And the second question, sort of staying on the same topic from K Lewis 824, how do you feel the Ravens will do without Zay for the second consecutive game? Dawson, we'll start with you on this one.
I think the game plan is going to be very similar to last week. I think it's just going to be ground and pound and hope you can run away with the early lead and kind of give the Bills no chance to come back. But I say that very lightly because we're talking about a completely different team. We're talking about the Buffalo Bills rather than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who obviously we know went downhill very fast towards the end of the season. But I think you're really just going to have to just literally do exactly what you did last week. Just give Derrick Henry at least 25 carries in this game. It's going to be super, super cold. The conditions are going to be outrageous for a football game. And it's everything we love about, having Derrick Henry, the ultimate closer, a guy who stands at 230 plus pounds, 6'3", and it's just an absolute bell cow closer. So that's the guy you don't want to see on the opposite end. I think that, a guy like Bate, once again, is going to be called upon. And, you just got to hope that when his name is called upon and the plays are given to him, that he makes the most of it and, gets in the end zone or whatever that could be. But I would like to see all three, including Mitchell, all three running backs included big time in this game. And even if that means, taking off with Lamar's legs too, if this is a game where you want to see more upon him, I'm all for that too. You got to get the job done in this kind of game. And that includes anything, whatever you got to do, get this done.
I'll tell you what, I'm the main name that I remember, being at the last game, being at that Bills-Ravens game was Justice Hill. And we tried to circle his name last week. Like, maybe they get him involved, Zay's out. And we were like, okay, maybe Justice gets a few opportunities. There weren't many memorable ones last week, but that does not mean that he can't replicate it again. And also the fact that he's going to be on tape whooping their butts last time. Josh Allen's quoted saying, oh man, they really smacked us around. We're going to be watching tape all week. We're going to be watching some Justice Hill highlight plays, right? We need his spark. We need the other guy's spark without Zay. I hope that he's a big part of the game plan, as in getting really the talented guys in space to make their moves and find a way to get in the end zone a few times, because that's what it's going to need to take for our offense to really compete with theirs, even if it's really snowy and crappy conditions.
Yeah. And you guys brought up Rashad Bateman briefly. And, for me, Rashad Bateman is the guy who's going to have to step up in this game. I do think that the Bills are going to sell out early to try to stop that Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson run game. Whether or not they'll be successful at that, I don't know. But if they are, hypothetically speaking, I think a guy like Rashad Bateman could really shine in this one. He's probably going to see a lot of coverage against Rasul Douglas and against guys like Christian Benford as well. How drastic difference in terms of the skill between those two guys. I believe Christian Benford is ranked in terms of PFF 6 out of 117 cornerbacks in coverage right now. And you've got Rasul Douglas, who's on the opposite end of that spectrum, ranked 88th out of 117th. And he's probably going to be split between both of those guys. He's got to take advantage of that. But I think he can, because Rashad Bateman is a guy who's been growing confidence within this offense and growing confidence with Lamar Jackson and him for the past couple of months now, to be honest with you. I think the Ravens are somewhat, 9-0 when Rashad Bateman has a touchdown in games. I know he's not really a big volume guy. I mean, an average stat line for Rashad Bateman this season is probably 2-3 catches, 50 yards, maybe a little bit less than that, and a touchdown, right? So, if he can continue to put points up on the board and gain his confidence, then I think that Rashad Bateman is going to be a guy who we can really, really rely on in this one. But more so even than that, Mark Andrews is a guy that I'm looking at. Can I interest any one of you guys in a Mark Andrews legacy game in this one? Because I think it can happen. I honestly do think it can happen. I know he hasn't really been a huge factor in some of our previous matchups, Of course, in the week 4 matchup, 0 catches, for 0 yards. He was basically out there getting cardio. But in this one, I do think that he could probably see a lot of soft holes in the zones, because you got to think those linebackers and those safeties are going to be absolutely terrified of what Derrick Henry can do to them. Not only from what they did back in week 4, what he did to them in week 4, but from what they just literally saw happen last week. And this team is a whole lot better now. This running game is a whole lot better. It's a whole lot more refined. So I think that the safeties and linebackers, they're not going to be paying as much or close attention to Mark Andrews. Their eyes are going to kind of be cheating towards the backfield. And that's going to give Mark Andrews plenty of opportunities against this, I don't want to say beat up linebacker and safety and DB room, but they're just not ranked very well either. According to PFF. I mean, I'm not a huge numbers guy, but I've been kind of doing a deep dive this week. Just full disclosure, guys. I might quote PFF a couple of times in this episode because I've been looking at the numbers a whole lot. But their linebackers and their safeties are not that good in coverage. They're really not. So I think if the Ravens did have to throw the ball in terms of how they would do without Zay Flowers, I think we've got a litany of options and guys like Rashad Bateman, guys like Mark Andrews. I might even sprinkle in a Nelson Aguilar catcher too to move the sticks in there. So I'm just saying, I think the Ravens will be fine through the pass game.
I really like the point that you made about the Mark Andrews legacy game too, because I think I said it last week in the preview pod that we are so long overdue for a Mark Andrews playoff game, like a big time Mark Andrews explosion, like touchdown, like Lamar Mark connection. So it hasn't happened his whole career. So we've been waiting on that. So this would be the perfect week for that to finally come to fruition. That'd be amazing. But I also like the point that you mentioned that we have so many weapons. Like we talked about this last week as well before the Steelers game, is it was the exact same situation that missing Zay, of course, hurts. It's a huge blow to the offense. Probably the most important outside of Lamar and Derek, of course. But we have so many weapons to take advantage of. You have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, who are both really good tight ends, big-time red zone threats. And these guys thrive after the catch. So these are guys that can exploit the Buffalo defense across the middle. And these are guys that can get outside and make a lot of damage happen, especially with a guy like Rashad Bateman, too, who steps up. And the point you said that I think we're 9-0 in games this season when he gets in the end zone. I think that's what you said. So you point out the pattern there, and it's like, get this guy in the end zone. There's a pattern that always takes place, and you want to continue that. So in this matchup, like I said in the previous statement, you're just going to have to take whatever the defense gives you. Don't try to force anything that's not coming around you, and just by all means necessary, put points on the board. This is a game where you have to take the points, and you just got to, do you got to play your football and hope that you're the better team in this matchup.
Yeah, Sutton mentioned Bill's secondary, and I do feel like their safeties are not as athletic as like the average safety duo in the NFL with Hamlin and Rapp. You saw Derrick Henry, the 87-yard run on the first play of the game in week 4, and just blew by their whole entire secondary. I think there's a lot of DBs in the NFL that could catch Derrick Henry. Obviously, no offense to him at all. He's 6'3", 230. Like, for example, like Nate Wiggins is probably a guy who can chase down Derrick Henry. We saw like Marcus Williams even chase down Derrick Henry last year. I don't think the Bills secondary is ultra athletic. They had Micah Hyde and what was the other safety's name?
Poyer.
Yeah, and Jordan Poyer. I think they were a really good duo. Had to get rid of them for cap reasons and all that. So we'll see about that. I think, I agree with everything you guys said. Andrews Likely, I'd love to see Likely continue to be involved. All that. Ravens still have a ton of weapons. So everything you guys said, I agree with. Question number 3. Do you think we will shut the Bills offense down like how we did in week 4 from Stolen Glocks? We'll start with you, Zach.
I absolutely think we can. It starts with James Cook, right? He's their big explosive, the big Russian. I mean, what? He has more touchdowns than Derrick Henry this year? That's pretty impressive. James Cook is lightning in a bottle. And against the Broncos, it was murder. It was ugly. Him running dudes over even after the first contact. It was special. It was not glimpses of Derrick Henry, but maybe a junior version. I don't know. And what he does with the ball really separates himself in a class of running back kind of discussions. But against our defense, with how we're defending the run right now, it's just as lethal. I don't remember his stats from week 4, but it was not that dominant. He had a few good rushes, first quarter, second quarter maybe, and then they had to abandon it just because they got so far down and they tried to build back up. So sure, there's that kind of game plan where hopefully our offense starts strong and we can kind of outpace them in that way. But shutting down the Bills starts with the run game and containing Josh Allen. Think about what our defensive players do in practice every week. They go against the most mobile, slippery quarterback, maybe of all time. This is the perfect guy to actually experience that with. You saw how they really dominated the game. It was kind of had moments of last week, right, where their offense was really shut down. Sure, there wasn't a big turnover like that Kyle Van Noy play, but it was flashes of it because they tried to get back into the game passing-wise, big play passing-wise, and that was really the only traction they got. Besides that, their offense was stale because the defense just outplayed them completely. I think that the Bills fans right now talk about how big of a difference it is from week 4 to now, but we can almost say that it is just as drastic with our defense and how crazy it's changed from that moment to now and how dominant they played in week 4 compared to now. What's really stopping us besides the fact that they've added a few key guys on offense compared to us really figuring it out on defense? I'm very confident on this side of the ball. I hope that they can get a turnover or two and really solidify it, but I think they absolutely can shut down the Bills offense.
I really like that point you just made, Zach, about how we can say the exact same thing as far as how different this team is from week 4, because across the media right now, the only thing you see as far as from the Bills Nation is, oh, this team's way better than week 4. And oh my God, there's so many differences. And yeah, 100%, they're right, because they had all those injuries out. But we can also say the exact same thing. I believe at the time, our defense in general was like bottom 5. Like our defense could not figure it out. They were awful. We were letting up so many chunk plays. We were giving up so many touchdowns. And, we had those safeties that we had we started the season with back there. We didn't have K-Ham and Ardarius Washington naturally both back deep. And it's a complete switch. And our defense is miles and miles ahead of the game as far as where they were week 4. So Bills fans, I don't know why you're talking so much, but this Ravens defense that you're going to see this weekend is significantly better than what you saw in the beginning of the season. And to the question, I mean, I don't think we can sit here and logically expect the Ravens to limit Josh Allen or hold the Bills offense to 10 overall points scored in this game, like in week 4, because you're talking about, the second best quarterback in the NFL in Orchard Park, who is at home in a very bad condition game where he's used to. And I think Josh Allen is going to make plays. I think the Bills offense is going to have a lot of plays. I think a lot of points are going to be scored in this game. And I truly do believe it's going to be a shootout. I believe this is going to come down to a fourth quarter mistake by a team, or basically who makes the extra play. It's not going to be a blowout by any means. And I don't think anyone can actually expect that. So in this game, as the trend continues, you're just going to have to play clean, mistake-free football. I think that you're going to have to know that Josh Allen is going to make superhuman plays just like Lamar Jackson is as well. And you just got to hope that he's not targeting Brandon Stevens, because as far as the difference from week 4 to now, I believe the only thing that hasn't got better on the defensive side of the ball is Brandon Stevens. And he's going to have a giant target on his back, and they're going to go after him the entire game. So I am terrified personally as far as that vulnerability we have, because it's going to happen. But I have so much faith in this defense right now, dude. They are playing at another level. I mean, truly, every unit on this defensive side of the ball right now is playing such good football. Like, our defensive line is getting home. Our pass rushers are getting to the quarterback. Our secondary, outside of Brandon Stevens, is not giving up anything. I mean, this defense is literally forcing it, and it's amazing. But I'm super excited for this matchup, man. But I just think at the end of the day, man, it's going to be a freaking shootout. It's going to be two superhuman quarterbacks just doing the craziest things, the two defenses that are going to hold on for dear life.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with everything y'all just said. And while you guys were talking, it got me to thinking, I've been watching HBO Hard Knocks, or AFC North Edition, the past couple of weeks. And just the attitude and energy from this defense right now, I think they're fed up. I think this whole team is fed up, to be honest with you. But I was watching Hard Knocks, the newest episode last night. Zach Orr, Ravens defensive coordinator, He was talking to them in the meeting room, and he was basically saying like, "Oh, people say this, guys say this. Everybody wants to make the playoffs. Everybody wants to go to the Super Bowl, play in the Super Bowl. Show me." He said, "Show me," like with the most stern face I've ever seen Zach Orr have. And he turned around and turned away from his defense like he was disappointed in his kids or something like that. And I was just like, I was thinking about that. I was like, the intensity right now in this locker room on this defense is just on a whole nother level. We can go back to the Steelers game from last week, right? The bank was so loud in there. Marlon Humphrey in the secondary and the linebacking unit, they had a hard time communicating. And Roquan Smith actually went over to Marlon Humphrey and chewed him out, right? To let him know, like, hey, look, this isn't good enough. It's loud in here. I need you to get louder to communicate, get everybody on the same page. You guys saw what happened on that Brandon Stevens big play that was given up at touchdown. Kyle Hamilton goes over to him. He's fired up. He's mad. He's fed up. This whole defense is fed up. Kyle Van Noy was even offended when the Steelers decided to take the ball first in that game. He took it personally. You know what I mean? I think that this defense is ready to go. My second point is this. In the week 4 matchup, if you look at what, and this actually goes for any football game. If you look at what a team does on their first offensive possession, it really does show their hand in what they want to do going forward in that game, or at least what their original game plan is going to be. First 2 plays for the Bills in week 4 on their opening drive. The first one was a screen to the left side of the field to James Cook, and he scrambles forward for maybe about 6 yards or so. And then after that, they go to another screen, a wide receiver screen on second down to Khalil Shakir. And guess who came flying down the field to destroy and just blow up that play completely? Kyle motherfucking Hamilton. Excuse my language, fellas. I don't know if you guys swear on this podcast, but I just had to say that because that is the dude right there. I mean, when you talk about a mix of athleticism, when you talk about a mix of physical prowess, and then also just the mental capability to be all over the field like he is, I think that with that quick passing game, and that's going to be a big key for us to shut down this, not Denver, but Buffalo offense, is getting rid of the quick passing game and taking that away from Josh Allen and really putting it on him, the onus on him to push the ball down the field more often, right? I think that's what we did early on in the last game. And I think that's what we're going to do in this game as well. Of course, James Cook didn't really get his chance to go off against us. I think he only had like 9 carries for 39 yards or something like that. Didn't really do much at all. Average 4.3 a pop. But I think that, again, this run defense is a lot better. I think there was no Broderick Washington that game. I think there was no, I want to say Michael Pierce was out. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
No, you're right.
Okay, yeah. And Michael Pierce, you guys know, one of the best run stuffers on this team, let alone in the league. And I'll stand by that. Just a huge guy, just a mammoth of a man. And of course, shout out to him for getting that pick the other week too. I mean, that was just awesome. I don't think I've talked to you guys since that, but yeah, that was awesome. Shouts out to him. But again, I'll put a nice bow on it with this. I think that this defense is locked in. I know people are tired of hearing the phrase locked in, but that's what they are, for lack of better words. That's what they are. And I just think that as long as they can stop the quick plays and keep the Bills behind the sticks, right? Get them into some second and long, some third and longs, right? And force Josh Allen to go out there and beat you, which sounds crazy because that's an MVP level quarterback, right? I'd be offended if somebody said, "Oh, make Lamar beat you." But at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? Football is a team sport. It doesn't make a lot of sense for you to just put the onus on one superstar. This is not basketball where there's only 5 guys on the floor at one time, right? There's 11 guys on the field at one time. So a lot of different things have to go right in order for a team to succeed on offense, So with that being said, defense just had to strap up all around. Brandon Stevens, you touched on him. I think he's going to play with a lot of pride. I know they're going to go for him. If it's a single high safety look and it's like third and long, second and long, I'm pretty sure McDermott's going to tell Josh Allen in his headset, "Hey, go after 21." But outside of that, I think this defense is sound. They're fed up and we're ready to roll. I think we can shut them down.
Yeah, and we've been saying it throughout the season. And of course, we're Ravens fans, so we have a little bit of bias towards this. But I truly do 100% believe there's a completely different mindset and confidence in this team this year. There's something within this team that feels different. And obviously, every season, we'll be in the playoffs and we're like, "Oh, we feel good. We feel confident. This team can do it." But this year, to me personally, and I know a lot of you agree, feels different than years prior. Even last year and in 2019 when we had the 1 seed, they feel a lot more mature, a lot more determined, and it really feels like a team of destiny. I mean, we've gone through a lot of I don't want to say turmoil, but a lot of stuff within the team this year that just was weird, and we got through all of it, and now we're in the clear. So it's this team has been battle tested this season. We've had some really tough losses, and we've had some, personnel decisions that had to be made and for the better, and obviously it helped this team. But I don't know. I haven't watched Hard Knocks, so I can't speak on behalf of this, but Sutton was mentioning it. I've seen the little snippets and stuff here and there that they show, of course, with him, when they do show the Ravens. And you can just tell, like, these guys are, like, confident. Like, they know they can do it this year, and they always kind of relate back to the loss last year in the AFC Championship. And, of course, Derrick Henry wasn't on the team at the time, but he even knows that this team knows that they can win it, and they should. And it's exciting, dude. This team, it's so much more, like, developed, and they're just so locked in. Like Sutton said, I hate saying that word because we kill it and over abuse it, but it's like they truly are, I think, the most locked in I've ever seen and determined to just, reach the ultimate goal. So that's super encouraging.
Something that caught my attention on Hard Knocks was Chris Berman being at practice and talking to Harbaugh. And, he's a guy that I think a lot of us respect a lot. He's been on TV since we were born. And, he was talking to Harbaugh, and he kind of just, like, looks down for a little bit and pauses, and he's like, there's something, like, going on here. And I think for him to say that is honestly kind of big. And, like, not that he's, like, a former football coach or anything, but I think you can feel an energy when you're at a certain type of place. And I just think he saw that, and I agree with everything you guys say. It definitely does feel different this year, but at the same time, I will say it kind of feels like that in Buffalo too. I think you could say that it feels like it's the year for both of these teams. And, that's just what sucks about sports is one of these teams' season is going to be over Sunday at about 10 p.m. So it's crazy to think about, but I think this is the best overall team from roster to talent to how the players are playing, how the players are feeling for both sides going to this matchup that they've had in this era. So definitely an exciting matchup. Question number 4. This one is from Ben KL. Greetings from Germany. So we have was it Switzerland and Germany now? So that's pretty cool. Do you think we have a lot of stuff in the vault for the next 3 games? I will say that, Sutton, I told Zach and Dawson in our post-game reaction to the Steelers game, I felt like that Ravens first touchdown drive was one of Monken's best drives of the season. Lamar starting with a couple zone reads, and then Derrick Henry gets going. And then you have the direct snap to Derrick Henry with Lamar in motion. I think there's definitely something in the vault, quote unquote, off of that play. I think there's something in there where Lamar maybe gets the ball. And, we haven't seen any trick plays from the Ravens yet this year. I'm not saying they're going to run one on Sunday, but if Monken has, we saw a lot of stuff at Georgia from Monken that was, sort of tricky, kind of like what Ben Johnson does with the Lions. So we'll see if that happens. I think they're going to continue to run Lamar a lot. I mentioned it. I think near the end of the regular season, Lamar's going to run a lot more in the playoffs. He preserves himself in the regular season, maybe not in 2018 and 2019, but I think honestly 2020, 2021, he kind of realized he doesn't need to run 15 times for the Ravens to win games in the regular season. So I think that's another thing to look at as well. But I think Lamar might have the ball in his hands on some maybe tricky plays coming here soon.
It's only a matter of time before we see the inevitable, I'm sorry, I can't even talk today, inevitable goal line touchdown pass from Derrick to Lamar, which will feed families. He did it as a Titan so many times against us too. And I think he did it in Baltimore in 2019, was it? In the playoffs against us, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
The day we finally see that, if that happens, man, holy crap. And especially if it's in a playoff game, possibly in Buffalo, who knows, Kansas City, that would be absolutely incredible. I hope that eventually, at the right time, of course, don't get too crazy. At the right time, if we do bring out some vault trick from Monken, it'll be awesome, dude. I can't wait. Zach, nope. You sound like a chipmunk again.
Oh man.
Go ahead, Sutton.
Okay. Yeah. So talking about Todd Monken and his game plan. Honestly, I just got done talking about how an offense shows you a lot of the cards that they have when they come out on their first offensive drive. But with Todd Monken, the reason why he ran Lamar so much on that with the design zone reads and things like that was because you have to keep whatever defense plays this Ravens offense. Offense. You have to keep them honest, right? You can't let them cheat on the test. They're all going to try to cheat on the test at the very beginning of the game. Okay, sell out on Derrick Henry, sell out on Derrick Henry, sell out on Derrick Henry, but and maybe we'll leave one guy reading Lamar Jackson, which a lot of times is just simply not enough, right? So, I really do like what we're seeing from Monken. I like what we're seeing from Oregon. But this game really, really does boil down to number 2, Derrick Henry, man. I mean, and he got 26 carries last week. I predicted him to get anywhere from 25 to 30. I'm predicting that again this week against the Buffalo Bills, at least like 20 to 25 carries, something like that. Maybe not quite 30, depending on if we start running away with the game, which I hope we do, by the way. But I'll say this. The Bills right now are ranked 31st out of 32 teams in the league when it comes to yards after contact allowed. And I think that is absolutely huge because Derrick Henry is the king. No pun intended. He is the absolute king of shedding tackles, right? And breaking tackles and getting downfield, right? After contact. So if the Bills do not plan on putting on their hard hat for 4 quarters of physical football in that 8 to 10 degree weather and tackling Derrick Henry, then it's going to be a very, very long day at the office for them. But they're going to have to deal with it. So yeah, Derrick Henry for the win.
That's a crazy stat pull, Sutton. I love that. 31st out of 32. And then you have the ultimate closer in Derrick Henry, who is the last football player in the NFL I'd want to tackle in this these conditions on Sunday evening that we're going to see. So that's a pretty big advantage for the Ravens, if we want to look at that.
Okay, is my mic okay? I'm back. Okay, cool. I like to imagine Todd Monken's vault as this closet door you open and there's like a little string light, turn that on, and then you do not see the end. I'm pretty sure his vault, it really is that deep, and we've barely got into it. Just given the fact that you have these type of playmakers on this team, I think Zay makes it a little lighter, but I still think that we can get really fancy with this. I think they were really fancy defensively whenever they played the Bills, all because of their really front work of dominating, the run game. But I think really that the offense can get going. I think Sutton mentioned it, that it was about Derrick Henry. I like to think of it more as, again, what I had mentioned last week about the Steelers, a big battle of the trenches. I think their D-line is just as talented as really an all-around group that the Steelers have. Rousseau, Von Miller, Ed Oliver, none of them are someone you can't pay attention to every single snap. They're all talented guys, Super Bowl winning guys, Super Bowl MVP winning guys, and also, the talented guys that are up and coming. It's another test for the offensive line that is feeling super confident right now. Plus, given the fact that they have the confidence of Derrick Henry, who never seems...
Oh my. We're losing Zach. We're having some technical difficulties tonight.
Zach.
Over in Ravens HQ time. That's wild.
Yeah, Zach's mic is struggling today. He had most of his point across.
Yeah, he did.
Number 5. Do you think the Bills will be a bigger factor now that everyone is fully healthy? So the players that were missing in week 4 were Teron Johnson, Matt Milano, and was it Terrell Bernard? Was he the third one?
Yeah.
So 2 linebackers and Teron Johnson, I think one of the best nickels in the league. Great against the run and the pass, in my opinion. Obviously, had the pick 6 against Lamar in the 2020 playoff game that he was asked about today. And he was like, yeah, I saw them post that earlier today. Definitely something that he wants to sort of get back at the Bills for. I don't know. I do think there will be a difference. Ravens fans are kind of making fun of Matt Milano right now because the Bills are acting like he's Ray Lewis, but he is a good player. And I think Teron Johnson's probably the number 1 guy in there that I'm thinking about in terms of the 3 that didn't play. And you look at it think about and I'm not comparing anyone to Roquan Smith, but think if Roquan is out and you have, Chris Board and Malik Harrison in there instead of Roquan and Chris Board. And Bills sort of had that at 3 different spots in that game. And they're fully healthy now. So I do think there'll be a bit of a difference. I'm not saying they're going to shut down the Ravens rushing attack. I think we were talking about it a little bit before the show. I feel like the Steelers' defense is better than the Bills' defense. I think their pass defense is better, and I think their run defense is better as well. So even with that, I'm not saying the Bills are gonna like have a great day on defense against the Ravens at all. And also, you guys have mentioned it, tackling Derrick Henry in 10 degrees. I would not want to be out there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's the last thing I'd want to do, but I 100% believe that this is going to be a night and day different Buffalo Bills team that you're going to see on Sunday. And I say that in a bad way because I don't want to see it, and I'm not saying we're going to lose. I'm just saying that this is going to be a significantly better team. They're going to have all their guys back, and both of these teams are going into this matchup. Granted, Zay Flowers is probably out very healthy. I mean, these teams are both pretty healthy for it being the divisional round of the playoffs. I mean, seriously, I think this is probably the healthiest Ravens team we can remember in recent history as far as like second round of the playoffs, how healthy this injury report is and how everyone's pretty much playing. So it's going to be a matchup truly to the most talent available on these teams because there's other than Zay, like we said, he's really the only player missing. So I keep going back to the factor of like Buffalo Bills fans keep saying that like, oh, we were missing all these guys. And it's like Roger Rosengarten's first start, week 4 at right tackle. Like Sutton said, we had no Michael Pierce. The defense was horrendous when we played them. So it's like these teams pretty much cancel out. I mean, we both have significant differences since that early matchup. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the Bills are going to have a lot to say about the outcome of this game. I mean, one, of course, they want to get their get back from week 4. 2, of course, it's the playoffs. And 3, they are at home in Buffalo where that crowd will be very, very loud for us. And I'm sure they'll be a little bit quieter for them to be able to run their offense. Things like that will factor into how difficult this game is for the Ravens. I think that last week at the bank, the energy was already there at the bank for the Ravens. They just had to take it and run with it. No pun intended. This go around, they're going to have to be a little bit more intentional. The Ravens are. They're going to have to be a little bit more intentional with scoring more consistently. I don't want to say that 28 points is not enough because it very well may be with the way that our defense is playing, but I just don't feel comfortable with scoring less than 30, to be honest with you, against a team like this, because when you have a fellow MVP candidate quarterback on the other side of the aisle, you have to be ready for anything, literally anything. And we saw that in week 4, where, I mean, in that third quarter, it became a game, for a little bit until Josh Allen gets strip sacked by Kyle Van Noy and then obliterated by Travis Jones all in one play. And we recover and we just kind of run away with it from there. But I think the Bills are going to have something to say. I think this is going to be a closer game than maybe a lot of us expect. I would hope not, right, at the end of the day. But I think this will be a little bit closer of a game. It's really going to come down to Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. You're going to hear the names of those two guys so many different times on Sunday night, mainly because they're going to be the guys responsible for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and if it looks anything like last week with, Patrick Queen and those guys up in Pittsburgh, it's going to be, again, a long night at the office for the Bills because just a split second of being wrong and guessing what's going to happen with this Ravens offense can really just kill you. That split second can allow Derrick Henry to burst through your defensive line, and all of a sudden he's up and near those unathletic DBs, like our guy Bradley was saying. So it's just, man, it's gonna be very, very tough for them. And I think, but they're gonna fight hard. They're gonna fight with a lot of pride. And like I said, this game's gonna be a lot closer than we think.
This is a game, too, that I would love to see some physicality very early and often from Baltimore. This is a game, whether they like to admit it or not, these players are not going to want to hit, not going to want to play football and be super physical. And this is a game where I would love to see like a Derrick Henry stiff arm or something early on to show them that we're here to play and we're not messing around. We don't care that it's 8 degrees and we're in your house. Like, we're here, we're going to punch you in the mouth and we're going to play physical ball and make you try to be more physical than us. So that's a little snippet, but like truly that does set the tone. And if the Ravens can come out early and jump on them and kind of attack this team and like put their foot down, it could serve well for the end result of this game. So we'll see if that happens. And I hope it does.
You had anything to add, Zach? Okay, Zach is still a chipmunk. So Zach,
This is
Zach,
Dang.
Zach,
this is
maybe
bad.
try just like using your desktop mic or something if you have one, or plugging headphones in. I'm not sure. Zach is now a 3-time chipmunk tonight, 4-time chipmunk
This is crazy.
of all time. So
This is a wild development.
we'll see what happens with Zach. I did have one more thing to mention on this topic, and you guys kind of touched around it. You're disciplined until you're not, right? So like you can go, the Bills defense can go into the game and be hype, and I can't look at the comments or I'm gonna laugh. Bills can go into the game and be all hype and like disciplined, and then Derrick Henry trucks you on the second play of the game, and just all that goes out the window. We saw the Steelers on Ravens' first touchdown drive and second. I think it was the second touchdown drive. Cam Hayward looked like he was done, and I'm not like I just think that you have a game plan until you don't against Derrick Henry and Lamar. Same goes for playing against Josh Allen and James Cook. It's really just about like the playoffs are about execution. You hear everyone saying that. You've heard John Harbaugh say that. It's like taking a moment to like calm down and realize it is just all about execution. If you can do that, you can play a good game. I think it's really hard to do against Derrick Henry. And I think in terms of the weather, maybe it's a little more beneficial to the Bills just because they're used to it. But I think the hardest person to tackle in this weather is going to be Derrick Henry. So,
I mean, you also look at the early matchup, and the first play of the game, Henry takes it 87 yards to the house. And like you said, Brad, like an early punch like that can essentially knock you out no matter how you're feeling just moments ago leading into this game. I mean, that in that situation, the dude goes 87 yards on the first play. All that momentum, all that encouragement for this game out the window immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills were flat from that point on. Like, how are you supposed to recover from that? And I'm not saying Henry's going to do that again. That'd be amazing. I really hope so. But like the Ravens can jump out early and basically flatten this team and kill all their momentum. Granted, they're at home, so they can quickly regain momentum from literally just forcing us to punt. But, you know, like that is huge in the outcomes of games. Like that, like is a huge, you know, shift in direction as far as if you're going to win or lose this game. And this just cannot be a game where the Ravens come out and struggle and try to figure out things early on in offense and have to punt a few times. Like this is a game where you're going to have to put up points on probably like every drive, and you're going to have to do something, because if you let them get momentum, you could be in for a very long day, and Bills Mafia could tear you apart.
Yeah. And my biggest thing is, somebody mentioned it in the comments a few minutes ago. They said that they just hope that the Bills don't come out and score first, and then the Ravens get away from their normal game plan. And, you know, that's going to be a big thing, like a huge key to victory just throughout the rest of this playoffs. And, of course, last week it was too. But coaching, right? This coaching staff has to keep its head on straight, because if they don't, I guarantee you Lamar won't. And Lamar will revert right back to trying to play hero ball, being, like I always like to call him, a Madden player personified. And he'll kind of lose that game manager part of his game that's going to be so important down the stretch here in these close, tightly condensed playoff games where every quarter, every possession, every down matters like so much more than it does in the regular season, because like we said, it's literally win or go home at this point. So I don't want to see the Bills go up 7-0, and then from there we're going out and we're pass on first, second, and third down. You know what I mean? Like, establish the run with Derrick Henry and make sure, you have to make sure that they feel the weight and the impact of Derrick Henry. Again, I'll reference Hard Knocks again. You know, I think it was late second quarter, right before they had scored that Justice Hill touchdown in the Steelers game. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, they're just getting run all over by Derrick Henry. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, he literally says, quote, like, damn, that boy is heavy. You know, like quite literally. Like, this is in the second quarter. Like, this is not even like in the third quarter. So it's just like, you know, if the Ravens can go out there and establish that run early with Derrick Henry, it'll be the punch in the mouth. And, you know, the famous Mike Tyson always said, he said, you know, everybody's got to play until you get punched in the mouth, right? And then it kind of goes out of the window. And I think that that's what could happen. Dawson, to your point, you know, that 87-yard touchdown in the first quarter, or the first play of the game in the Week 4 matchup, very low probability that that happens again just the same way, and we kind of get that same spark. But again, establishing the run game is going to be of just paramount importance, man. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
I mean, we can say it's a low probability that he cribs one on the first play of the game, but we can't sit here and say it's a super low possibility that he takes one 40 plus yards because he's done that a lot of times this season. I feel like every week at this point, at least as far as the last like 5 games, I think like every game we've at least had like one 40 plus yard run from Derrick Henry, whether it's a touchdown or not. So even if, in the first drive he takes one 30 yards, in the second, third,
Mm.
fourth play of the game, like that could quickly give us some traction and kind of shut that crowd up that is going to be very hostile very, very early. So I think we can definitely expect that. And I do think that, Lamar is going to be running a lot too. And we all know what could happen there if he turns on the Jets early there.
Yeah, for sure. Apologies, Giancarlo. That was his question. I forgot to mention it. Going into our next question, I like this one from Cole Cripps. What is your biggest concern on Sunday? Zach, are you available or?
Is this real? Good. Oh, look at that thumbs up. Wow, look at that. Biggest concern, I'm going to take it from Dawson, so Dawson doesn't get to say it. It's Brandon Stevens. I hope they don't target him. Week 4, they targeted him a lot. Keon Coleman got going against him, and that was really their only spark on offense. I hope that he can somewhat get a good game on his chest because he really needs one, really just for any kind of hope in the offseason as well for him. Thank you, Prime. Thank you. But yeah, I'm just hoping to see really the secondary shut down their part because I'm pretty confident in the front 7 taking care of business with James Cook. I'd say besides that, they got a few good momentum plays on 3rd and short, on 2nd and short whenever they're against the Broncos with Josh Allen and his legs. And I think that they can take it away, but it's going to be key on if they do, because if we're so worried about keeping Cook in check, then Josh might get a few more opportunities. He had 8 carries last week, had 5 carries against us in week 4. Hopefully we can keep him, in the pocket and get to him. Hopefully rattle him like Kyle Van Noy eventually did in that game and really kind of throw the whole game off its heels.
Yeah, just copy and paste what Zach said, essentially, for my segment here. But it's 100% Brandon Stevens. Everybody by now should know that Brandon Stevens and I don't have a really good relationship, whether he knows I exist or not. He's 100% my concern, and I'm terrified for a superhuman quarterback like Josh Allen to realize that we have a very, very large weakness on one specific side of the defense. And a lot of times he gets one-on-one opportunities with these guys. And it's not like the Bills have like a lone star, like wide receiver 1, a guy that I'm terrified of being on an island with. Stevens, Khalil Shakir's had a pretty good season. Amari Cooper, I haven't heard anything about since he joined the Bills. So it's not like that's an immediate concern. It's just the area of weakness that it's going to be exploited. I just pray to God he has a pretty good showing. I hope they don't go after him as much as I feel like they're going to. It's just, that's literally the only thing I'm scared of. I saw 2 federal kind of say he's scared of officiating, I believe it was, the refs. And I'm not super scared as far as like us being disciplined in this game, because I believe our head official is Carl Schaefer's, whatever.
He did call the leg whip, I will say that.
Against the Chargers, which was garbage. And we had like 9 penalties in the game. We got penalized a lot. But I think that was in the midst of us just like being penalized every week, like 10 plus times, which was weird. And we've kind of cleaned it up since. But I believe, don't quote me, but I'm like 98% certain, I believe Sheffer's crew had the least amount of flags during the season. I believe he was the crew of officials that called the least amount of penalties. So that's kind of encouraging. Hopefully that trend continues this weekend, because I do not want to see a game where the Ravens get so many unnecessary just whack penalties, because that will just kill all the momentum and all the hope that this is a game we could win, no matter what. We've seen that story a million times this season. But, the immediate concern, I'm not concerned about the offense moving the ball. I think our offense is going to be just fine. And I think our defense will be pretty good given the circumstance of going up against, Josh Allen. It's just the one player that we all know is going to get killed.
Yeah, and, the biggest concern for me is going to be Josh Allen. Can we actually bring up Judah's comment on the screen here? Judah says we have to keep Josh from rolling out to his right. He loves to escape that way and make big plays. This is going to be very, very important. It's imperative that we keep Josh Allen contained in the pocket. And honestly, I have a lot of faith in the Ravens pass rush in the past couple of seasons. Last year, we were ranked number 1 in the league in sacks. This year, we were ranked number 2 in sacks. So really didn't take that much of a drop off. So shouts out to guys like Kyle Van Noy. Shouts out to guys like Odafe Owe, who's had a 10-sack season. Nobody really saw that coming. Shouts out to guys like that, right? But my biggest thing is Josh Allen is most dangerous, kind of like Lamar Jackson when he gets out of the pocket, when he can, scrambling around trying to make something happen. If you get hands on this guy, wrap him up and take him down. My biggest concern is him breaking tackles to try to extend plays, because there will be times on 3rd and longs, things like that, where he gets desperate. And Josh Allen is a big guy, right? Josh Allen is probably what 6'4" and 230, somewhere around there, similar size to like a Derrick Henry, to be honest with you, but of course not quite as powerful as a Derrick Henry because he's a quarterback and Derrick Henry's a running back. But biggest concern for me is not getting this guy on the ground, him breaking tackles and then making big plays downfield. Like I said, out into his right is where he loves to be and where he loves to throw down the field. Out into the left, he struggles a whole lot more. So if we're gonna flush him out either way, flush him out to the left and make him make a play like that, instead of letting him run to his natural side, his throwing side, the right side, and let him go up all over the field on us. So biggest concern for me, not getting this guy on the ground when we have the opportunity to. Again, I'm looking at guys like Odafe Owe. I'm looking at guys like Kyle Van Noy. I'm looking at guys like Nnamdi Madubuike. Anybody who can try to kind of chase him down and get after him, we have to get him on the ground.
Yeah. Real quick, can we just have a moment of silence for Odafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy? How good they've been this season. If you look at their numbers, like, who would have expected before the season that Kyle Van Noy has 12 and a half sacks and Owe has 10 or 11? Like, can we talk about that? Our leading pass rushers this season, our 2 starters, are Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe, and no hate towards them at all. But it's like, could we sit here and expect for us with those guys leading the group to be second in the NFL in sacks, as Sutton said? I mean, that is crazy. Like, what?
Shout out to Chuck Smith, Dr. Rush.
Seriously, dude, Dr. Rush got them boys playing. It's like, who would have saw this coming? Nobody.
Yeah, Sutton, I was going to mention Judah's comment. If you didn't, my biggest concern was going to be Josh Allen as well. And I like what you said about rolling right, because we saw the play to Shakir against the Ravens on Sunday night in week 4 when he was like an inch away from the sideline and fired a ball down to Shakir. Eddie Jackson, I don't know what was going on there. I watched it earlier today. He dove to the ground, and then Stevens ended up making a touchdown-saving tackle. And then Allen rolls out to the left. I don't know if I'd call it rolling out to the left, but going left throwing, and he gets strip sacked by Van Noy going left. And I think with Lamar, I think he can go right or left and throw on the run no matter what. Like, maybe he's a little better going right because he's right-handed, but I think Allen is a lot better rolling right. So if you are going to let him outside of the pocket, at least hope he goes left or push him left. And, there's nothing wrong with hanging on to him, right? Like, you don't have to crush him when you get in there. Like, holding on to Josh Allen's leg is much better than whiffing, right? So, I compare him to Big Ben a little bit. The Ravens could never sack Big Ben. I remember there was one time Ravens ran a corner blitz. I don't know if it was Shockey Brown or what, but Big Ben was giving him like a piggyback ride in the pocket. And that's just a funny memory that I have. So I don't know, just don't whiff at least. Just at least slow him down, I would say.
Yeah. And you bring up that corner blitz. I was actually going to go there next. Like, do not be surprised if we see some corner blitzes coming from the right side of the line of scrimmage to get him, to force him out left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe on like a 3rd down or something like that. And they'll tell the rusher, the cornerback rushing, like, hey, if you cannot get to him, chase his ass down and make him go, like, box him off from getting back to the right. You know what I mean? Like, be disciplined in that way. Maybe, like a Marlon Humphrey, they might move Kyle Hamilton down there, who knows, or whoever. But I think that'll definitely happen. Corner blitz.
Man, this is a game I would love to have Arthur Millette playing. That would be awesome. Because him and those blitzes, dude, he's so good. I don't know what happened to him. It's unfortunate we don't have him. I mean, it's just kind of a random thing I want to throw in there, but it does directly correlate to the corner blitz because we've seen that notoriously 1,000 times and it works very well. But I agree, you're definitely going to see that happen in this game.
I swear Arthur Millette is the best corner blitzer I've seen in my life. Like, they're coached to like not jump at pump fakes and don't get juked out. Millette would just sprint at the quarterback no matter what. He would never jump or anything. So I missed that a little bit. I think Humphrey's gotten pretty good at it as well. But yeah, let's see.
All I'm going to say, All I'm
Yeah.
gonna say is if we get an Ardarius Washington like hit stick on Josh Allen or somebody this game, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it.
Okay.
If 5'8", I don't even know how much he weighs. If 5'8" Ardarius Washington hits Josh Allen in like a meaningful way, dude, I'm gonna lose my mind. That will be incredible. Because Josh Allen is significantly bigger than this guy.
Yeah. Last question about the game, then we have a little bit more of a fun one after that. But this one is from Forever Paid John, and he's asking confidence level versus the Bills. I think it'd be fun if we just go with 1 through 10 scale and maybe why in this one. I guess we'll start with you, Zach. First of all, thanks Sean for coming over from Instagram. Appreciate you being here. But Zach, confidence level versus the Bills.
Okay, hopefully the mic's okay. Great. I have to make sure now. This is so much fun. Confidence level in Bills versus Bills. I'm like an 8 KP. I like 8. I'm kind of a fringe 9. I'm not sure why I'm this high. Maybe because I was at the last time that we played them and watched them beat down, so I know it's possible. And that alone gives me hope that we can do it again. But I feel confident just given the circumstances. Someone said it just a little bit ago. The special ability of both Josh and Lamar almost cancel each other. Who's left, right? Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's left. And right now, with how the offensive line is playing confident, I mentioned it earlier, I'm just so proud of them with how they're playing. This is another big test to take on a special level of defense, really, in that regard. And if we can just get Derrick to the second level, 4 times, I'm going to bet you some big money that he's going to break one. I'm very confident in that. And I hope that he can get us one of those this week. It's kind of just like a lift of pressure once he gets one of those and really in a full installment of confidence, a jolt of it to every single person on the team. And I feel like they can do it. I feel like they might not get, the special turnover or anything like that. It could be something like last week where it's really just 2 great teams battling, 0 turnovers, hardly any penalties, just kind of back and forth, 2 bullet trains right into each other. It's about continuing to play our game really for 48 minutes because we know that game is capable of beating a Bills team. And especially with how we've grown and how they've grown, we can feel confident in a matchup against them because of how really well executing and confident our team is right now.
Yeah, I agree with I see Mark and Don. I'm probably about a 7 out of 10. Like, I'm very optimistic that the Ravens match up very well in this game, and I do think we can come away with a win. But at the same time, I'm proceeding with caution because we're talking a really good team who's the 2nd seed in the AFC, has a really, really, really good home field advantage, and has a superstar quarterback and makes plays out of absolutely nothing. We're talking about like Lamar 2019 type stuff, MVP with like Willie Snead, Seth Roberts, and guys like just who. So at the end of the day, you're going to see big plays happen against you. And I know we've talked about this defense being absolutely incredible all season long, but at specific times in nature, we've seen them still give up some large plays and give up, and be a little vulnerable. Not as much as early season, of course, but there's still a small part of me that believes that this could happen. Like, I still could see a game where the defense struggles, especially against a guy to the magnitude of Josh Allen. And I go to the home field advantage, man. Like, if this game was in Baltimore, and I know Brad and I talked about it a little bit, if this game was in Baltimore, I would feel like probably like a 9, like pretty significantly like margin better than if this game being played in Buffalo. And I like how we play on the road. The Ravens notoriously play well on the road against really good teams, which is super encouraging and super good for this matchup specifically. But at the same time, it's anyone's game. This is the NFL. Anything could happen any given week. And we really don't know what's going to happen in this game. And I don't think Vegas does either, because this line is flipped from when it originally opened at. So I don't know what's in store for Sunday evening at 6 o'clock in Buffalo and Orchard Park, but I'm super pumped nonetheless. But I think we can all agree that we're encouraged, we are excited, and we have faith in our boys. But at the same time, we know we're going against, and we're proceeding with caution.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you, Dawson. A 7 out of 10 seems like pretty perfect for me, and I'm actually kind of going to cap myself at a 7 in terms of confidence level for the remainder of this playoffs. Even if we were to beat the Bills in this upcoming matchup, and the reason I say that is because for the Bills, I think the formula is kind of simple, and that may sound like crazy to hear because like the Ravens' offense is so multiple, it's so complex. Todd Monken is in his absolute bag right now, but at the end of the day, the game plan for them is going to be slow down Derrick Henry early, because if you slow down Derrick Henry in this running game early, right, get the Ravens behind the sticks, maybe force them to punt a time or two, naturally the Ravens are going to start to run less. And the less that the Ravens run, it plays into the favor of the Bills. And we've seen this coaching staff, we've seen this team kind of get outplayed, outcoached before in that same similar fashion. So I got to cap it at a 7, because if, like Dawson said earlier, it is totally possible that Derrick Henry could break off like a 20, 30, 40-yard run on the first couple of possessions, and that would bode very well for our offense moving forward throughout the game. But if he doesn't, right, and maybe, on our first offensive drive, we give it to him 1st and 10, he rushes behind the left guard and he gets stopped for 2 yards, right? And then it's 2nd and 8. And then we do a Lamar keeper and Lamar only gets, I don't know, 2 yards. They chase him out to the boundary or something like that. And now we're in a 3rd and long now, and that's exactly where the Bills want us. So they're going to try to sell out and stop the run to negate that running game getting going so early. But this is why I think a Mark Andrews comes into play. And I mentioned him at the top of the episode, like, make them be honest, right? Do not allow them to cheat their eyes towards the backfield because they know we're running every possession. Like, I think early on in this game, you're going to see some play action. The play action should be there, right? And if there's any time you're going to use it, I think it should be early in that first quarter. Kind of make them feel like, okay, we're going to have to play a guessing game all night. Is Lamar going to keep this? Is he going to hand it? Is he going to hand it to Derrick Henry? Is he going to scramble out of the pocket? What is he going to do? Force them to second guess themselves, for lack of better words. But yeah, I'm going to cap it at a 7 in terms of confidence level, because again, if it starts bad, the trend could go on for the rest of the game, just knowing this coaching staff, right? And we kind of saw that in the AFC Championship game last year, 6 carries to running backs. Now this year, I think that it would be literally impossible for you to not look at a Derrick Henry on the sideline, say if we're down 7 or 10 points or something like that, and just like be like, okay, we're not going to give that guy the ball anymore. Like, he's not a viable weapon at this point. That would just be foolish. But we've seen crazier things from this coaching staff, so I'm gonna go 7 out of 10 confidence level.
I like towards the end what you said real quick there, Sutton. I like how you pointed out the fact of, like, I don't think there's a possibility that the Ravens abandon the run. If they do, that is absolutely absurd. And we've seen so many games this season. Me and the boys, we talked about it for really the whole season long, because it happens all the time. Like, we'll see games where Derrick Henry has 46 rushing yards at the half on 7 carries, and we're like, oh, it's not working. And then he ends the game with 160 yards, 2 touchdowns with 24 carries. So it's like, we all know he's the ultimate closer. He gets better as the game goes on. Every single person on the earth that watches football knows that. And he's gonna, even if he has 6 carries at half, like, there's no way Derrick Henry in this game finishes with anything less than, I would say, 25 carries. I mean, I would say he's probably going to carry the ball 25, 30 times in this kind of game, especially given the conditions of the weather. I would probably expect more closer to 30. Honestly, I really think this is a Derrick Henry game. I think we all know that. That doesn't take much to, think it's going to happen. But, he gets better as the game goes on, and I think the Ravens know that. They've seen it multiple times, and I just think they know that he's their ultimate weapon outside of Lamar, of course, and he's going to get the rock a lot in this game.
I'm pretty analytical, so I think about it on the 1 through 10 scale. I think about it as like a 5 would be you have no idea who's going to win, right? Like, I wouldn't see 5 as a negative thing. So I'm going to go with a 6. Because I feel pretty nervous about this game, but we always talk about when we're predicting games, we try to pretend like we have to put money on it and not be biased. And I think I'd lean a little bit towards the Ravens. I think if this game was in Baltimore, I'd be maybe a 7.5. I think the weather plays a role for me. I'm not saying it's going to affect the Ravens. I'm saying it could be a slight concern with probably going to be below 10. Usually that's not an issue unless you're the Miami Dolphins. I think the Ravens will be able to handle that pretty fine. Like we said, the Bills are going to have to tackle. The Bills haven't had to tackle Derrick Henry. The Bills have played in this weather before. They haven't played against Derrick Henry in this weather before. So that's sort of how I'm feeling about it. My trust and faith in John Harbaugh has gone up a lot over the second half of this season. I have no concern about him at all. I trust Monken. I trust Zach Orr. I trust Lamar. And I think the Ravens have a better roster. So that puts me at a 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 or instead of a below 5. Sort of those reasons reason I'm not a 7 or 8 is because the Bills have the, if a Bills fan wants to say Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL this year, I wouldn't have a problem with it. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. That's the reason I'm not at a 7 or an 8. So that is where I'm at for this one. We have a fun question, unless anyone didn't have anything else to say about that. No. Okay. We have a fun question here from Tyler Backus. Is Lamar a top 10 quarterback of all time if he wins the Super Bowl this year?
That's a big question. That's a big headline. I think if Lamar goes on this run, which right now would be going into Orchard Park, beating Josh Allen, who's, you could argue the best quarterback in football. If a Bills fan says that, I'm not really going to argue them too much, but same goes for Lamar. He goes into Orchard Park, takes off Josh Allen, then goes to Kansas City and takes out Patrick Mahomes, then goes to the Super Bowl and takes off the Lions or the Eagles, I would say. I mean, who are a juggernaut in the NFC, who are both extremely good teams. And then he's presumptive 3-time MVP, would be 3-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. I believe I'm getting that right. The already at age 28 all-time leading rusher at the quarterback position. I mean, I think that resume puts this guy top 10 of all time. If not, it's at 100% top 15. It's very close. And I think I said this 2 days ago. If Lamar wins the Super Bowl this season, and I'm just saying in general, if and when he wins his first Super Bowl in his career, he's setting himself up to be potentially, and I say this with a grain of salt, top 5 quarterback of all time. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 28 and already has this resume. If this guy wins a Super Bowl this year and then plays another, who knows, 9 years, 7, 8, 9 years in the NFL, I don't know. It depends. And then wins maybe a couple more MVPs, potentially a couple Super Bowls, more first-team All-Pro nods, breaks more records. I mean, his resume is going to be absurd. I mean, he's already the best mobile rushing quarterback of all time. And I don't think that's even a discussion at this point. He broke that, I believe, a couple of years ago already. And, I would have to think that this guy is setting himself up to be top 5. But if and when he wins a Super Bowl this year, I think you could logically have an explanation and say that this guy is a top 10 quarterback of all time at the age of 28.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have to agree. Top 10, even fringe top 5. I mean, you just kind of have to look at some of the other guys that are on the list already. Guys like Drew Brees, guys like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has 1 Super Bowl, right? I think he has 3 or 4 MVPs. Somebody correct me.
I think it's 4.
Rodgers?
4? Yeah, 4 MVPs. Yeah, so he'd be 1 MVP behind Rodgers if he gets a Super Bowl ring, on top of all of the rushing accolades as well. Like you said, Dawson, at 28 to be the leading rushing quarterback of all time is absolutely ridiculous. He might put that record on too high of a shelf for anybody to get in the near future. So when you consider that, like, just think about guys like Tom Brady, who's regarded as the greatest quarterback of all time. And I don't think that anybody's going to catch up to him for a while because he's got a ring for every day of the week, quite literally. And, but take some of his best seasons as a quarterback and just imagine, okay, let's just throw 800 to 1,000 rushing yards on top of that. Imagine how much more we would be talking about this guy. Of course, we talked about Tom Brady at length over. He's awesome. He's amazing. But the fact that you just add that little extra element to his game, it's all the running, right? It's the rushing. And of course, Lamar Jackson, over the course of his career, his throwing has caught up with his running a lot. But when it's all said and done, the accolades, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, maybe he gets another one or something like that in the years to come, because he's still a young guy. He would be undeniable for top 5. He'd be absolutely undeniable. And the way I look at it is, if we picked up Lamar Jackson right now in his prime and we dropped him back into the eras of some of these other quarterbacks, how good would he be? Right? You think of human evolution and stuff, like guys nowadays are bigger, faster, stronger. They know the game better. You know what I mean? The game is more advanced, it's more analytical. It's down to literally a T on how to be good at this game, and Lamar Jackson is making grown men out there and the best athletes in the world look like kids, look like his little cousins in the park, right? And he literally plays like that too. It's so wild to see. You ever been to I don't know, a park or a family reunion or something like that, where all the kids are playing around and maybe they're playing tag or something like that, and there's that one kid who's a couple grades higher than all the other kids, and he's the one who's it in tag, and nobody can get him, right? And he's just kind of running around everybody and just making them look like literal kids. man amongst boys. Lamar Jackson does that with grown men in the NFL, and he's been doing that since day one. So the only thing he needs now at this point is a Super Bowl to solidify him as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He's got the stats. He's trending to have the stats for his career, right? He's got the accolades and he's got the abilities, just the raw ability, and he passes the eye test too. He's probably one of the most exciting quarterbacks to watch of all time as well. So you add that to the list as well. I think it'd be undeniable to say that he's top 10.
To think that this guy could play another 8 years, like another 7, 8, 9 years, is just absurd, dude. His resume when he's all done is gonna be just untouchable. I mean, like you said, Sutton, he's gonna put the rushing record for a quarterback so far and away ahead that it's not even gonna be touchable. It's gonna be an absurd amount, dude. It's gonna be like some of not the best quarterbacks of all time, but it's gonna be some very decent quarterback, passing yards, career passing yards is gonna be his rushing yards. It's gonna be absurd, dude. Just think about that. There's gonna be a lot of really good quarterbacks that go down in history that their career passing yards are gonna be similar to Lamar's rushing yards. It's just wow. The dude's incredible, and he's on the trajectory to get a gold jacket. And if he hasn't already, solidified that, we got to be grateful, Ravens flock. This could very well be the best quarterback we ever see in Ravens franchise history in our lives. So we gotta admit that and just be happy, man. Just enjoy this. This doesn't come around. And think about if you weren't a Ravens fan watching Lamar, wishing he was your quarterback, and we actually get the honor of watching him and having him roll with our team.
I full blown retweet you guys. I mean, I think it's the real every single year really has been a new, goalpost mover. It's he's got to win a playoff game. Oh, he's got to be successful. Oh, he's got to beat the big dogs. Oh, he's got to come back from 10 points down. This is it, right? Super Bowl. That's the icing. That's the candle on the cake. There's nothing else to debate, really. It's the only thing that someone that you guys might know really well, Stephen A. Smith, it's the only thing that he really holds over his head constantly. There's multiple guys that have, 2 or more MVPs, and they all have a ring. If they had them by, 28 or so, that's a different discussion. But it's about his time in the league overall, and right now is as perfect of a year as we've known for the Ravens to really get it done.
You already know, though, if we win the Super Bowl, it's going to be, oh, Derrick Henry carried the Ravens. Oh, they had so many Pro Bowlers. Oh, they had so many All-Pros. There's going to be excuses that try to put Lamar down, even if he goes crazy and wins a Super Bowl. There's going to be excuses. They're never going to give his credit. But at the end of the day, when he wins a Super Bowl, who cares, dude? He's got a ring, and he's a gold jacket. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best of all time. So I could care less what they say. He just needs a Super Bowl ring. That's literally it, dude. If he wins, when he wins a Super Bowl, that's it. He can do whatever he wants the rest of his career. It's everything else is just a bonus, and the more the merrier.
I think he's already top 10, especially with this more than likely 3-time MVP. 2 quarterbacks in NFL history have more first-team All-Pros than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson just turned 28 years old. I think if he gets a ring, there's a top 5 conversation. And Nick Wright, who I think has a lot of good takes, is off on some of them, but I think he's more well thought out than a lot of people in the media. He was saying that if Lamar were to get a ring this year, you can have the Aaron Rodgers arguments and the Brett Favre arguments and all those things because he's going to be probably a top 5 quarterback with a ring of all time. So I agreed with him saying that, and I would say already top 10 with a chance to be top 5. So we'll see how that turns out. Sutton, with me, Zach, and Dawson doing a preview later this week. We still have our predictions to get out for this, but I'm not going to make you give your score prediction unless you want to, because we still have 3 or 4 days till this game. But either if you want to or not, whatever. But just give us your sort of your final thoughts and what you think is going to happen in this game on Sunday against the Bills.
Well, I mean, I'll give my score prediction, but I'll say this first. I think that this Ravens team needs to come out and just kind of keep the AFC Championship game from last year ingrained in your head. The guys who were here, which is a lot of these guys who came back, remember how that felt, because I remember how I felt. So I can only imagine how those players felt, how everybody in that locker room, coaching staff, everybody who works for the Ravens, you know, that type of hurt can really, really motivate you and honestly give you discipline. Like, forget the motivation, like, can give you discipline. You can see how disciplined this team has been all season long, fighting adversity, standing up tall to different challenges and things like that. This is just another challenge in the way. This is just another obstacle, right? The Bills are not world beaters. In fact, they've never been world champions, right? I say this all the time. Bill stands for boy, I love losing Super Bowls, right? Because they lost 4 in a row. I mean, those guys are just going through it right now. And I think that this Ravens team can really take advantage of the fact that this run game is absolutely lethal this year, more lethal than it's been in past seasons. Last season and the seasons before that, of course, Lamar Jackson led the team in rushing. This year we don't need that anymore. And like the pressure, I think that the biggest thing that having Derrick Henry on this team does this year, it takes so much pressure off of Lamar Jackson, right? Whereas in years past, Lamar Jackson felt like he literally would have to do everything. Oh, my receiver dropped one pass. Okay, I have to be Superman now in order for us to win this game. When now that's not the case. Like, you can hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. He's going to break off a big, 20, 30-yard run. And if he's not, he's probably going to rush for maybe 2, 3 yards. And then, oh, guess what? He's going to fall forward for an extra 2, and that's going to really break the back of a lot of different defenses as well. So stick to the run game, stick to your game plan, stick to who you are. Lamar Jackson, you are the MVP, but you don't have to play like it's Madden all the time. I know that's what we love about Lamar Jackson mainly. Like, you can revert back to that Justice Hill touchdown from last week. Real quick side note. Does anybody else notice how Lamar Jackson does such a damn good job at manipulating the pocket, right?
Yes.
And honestly, like, when the pocket is completely collapsed, right, and he'll be like in the midst of everything, he turns his head with like the swiftness. His head is on a swivel, like unlike any other quarterback I've ever seen. It's so fast. He downloads the information of what's behind him and around him in like a split second, and he's able to buy himself just enough time to make a play, like he did against the Steelers, where he threw it to Justice Hill in that one. Those type of plays are what makes Lamar Jackson Lamar Jackson. He's absolutely electrifying. But in these playoffs, points come at a premium. So turnovers also come at a premium. So I would like to see him kind of balance that part of his game, the electrifying part of it, with kind of like the game managing part of it as well, which I thought he did a good job of doing last week against the Steelers. I want to see that more in this game, because that is what separates him from, I would say, a Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has all the talent, right? All the God-given abilities, right? He's electrifying in his own regard. But at the same time, he also kind of has that game manager within him as well. And he knows not to make the mistakes that will cost you the game. And one more thing, Lamar Jackson spoke today to the Ravens media, and they asked him, do you still think about the last playoff game against the Bills? And Lamar Jackson said, yeah, I still think about it. Like, I just watched it today. Like, they love to post the clips of the pick six on Twitter, and I'm seeing that. And he was like, but that's all I have to say about it. So I know Lamar Jackson is absolutely locked in for this one. I hope it doesn't mean that he's going to try to do hero ball or whatnot, because again, we don't need that. We don't have to have you play hero ball anymore, bro. That's not the game plan. I mean, we've got Derrick Henry for a reason. We've got Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, the best tight end tandem in the league, for a reason. Rashad Bateman has been dominating this year. Go back to him. The trust that you've been building with him it might carry us through the playoffs, right? That first 7 points against the Steelers, I think that really, really demoralized them, because we ran the ball all the way down the field, right? And just when they thought, okay, they're just going to run it all the way through us. No, we're going to throw a touchdown to Rashad Bateman on 3rd and 13 or something like that. So just play balanced, play your game, and limit mistakes, right? Because turnovers can cause huge point swings in this one. But in terms of a score prediction, like I did say, I have a 7 out of 10 confidence level in the Ravens winning this one. I'm gonna go 35 to 31 Ravens. 35-31 Ravens. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it comes down to Josh Allen, and this is kind of like my bold prediction, right? I think it's going to come down to Josh Allen trying to lead a game-winning drive with the Bills with a couple of minutes left, and I think we see a big interception, him trying to force something to happen. So I don't know from who, but I do think a late-game interception is coming from Josh Allen, and that really seals the deal for the Ravens to go to the AFC Championship game. So I'm going to go 35-31.
Who's getting the interception, Sutton?
Oh, man, I see. That's the thing. I don't know. I really don't know. But if I had to guess, right, Give me Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
Give me
Redeeming
Kyle
himself
Hamilton.
from the drop earlier in the year.
Exactly. I think that they go to Brandon Stevens over the top. Hamilton reads it. He's right there. It's an errant throw because of the win. Kyle Hamilton gets it.
That would feed families, dude. I was thinking Darius Washington. I thought that's what you were gonna say, which would be also incredible. Either way,
What if it was Brandon Stevens?
It'd be awesome, dude. I'd be hyped, but
Yeah.
Dude, a late game interception to send us to the AFC Championship, and you do it. Ooh, that would feed families. That'd be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Also, real quick snippet just to clear the air on the concerns over this team playing in frigid, cold temperatures, and oh no, Buffalo's gonna be 8 degrees. If we all remember, and I was there last year, so I can speak on behalf of this, the divisional round against Houston Texans in Baltimore was bone chilling. It was like a 12-degree temperature at kickoff, and the feels like was like 3. I don't know if any of you guys watching were there. It was freezing last year in Baltimore against the Texans in the divisional round.
Really?
So, and the Ravens played exceptionally well in that game. Of course, I think we won. I don't remember the score. It was like 30-something to a low score. So the Ravens can play well in cold temperatures. I'm not concerned at all over that. I think they're going to step up to the plate. They have experience. They play in Baltimore. There's been really cold games in Baltimore before, and I just can't see how people are concerned over the weather because the Bills are also playing in the same thing. And I saw something earlier on Twitter. I can't confirm exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of Lamar Jackson plays exceptionally well in cold weather games. Like throughout his career in cold weather games, he's played exceptionally well, and he ranks amongst some of the best in the league, like as far as like how well he plays. It's hard to explain, but I saw it on Twitter earlier under a NFL media outlet, so it is the truth. Also, Lamar, I believe, has never thrown a touchdown pass on the road in the playoffs. I'm excited for that to end this week. He's going to throw multiple, potentially. So that's another little interesting stat that I'm excited to see get laid to rest this weekend.
I think Sutton's thinking about the road playoff games.
Yeah, I am.
saw
I'm just
that.
thinking like, geez, really? Like, no.
Well, I
pass
saw
touchdown?
it in the context of a Bills fan on Twitter, and I won't.
He hasn't. Because I can't think of any.
No,
but I'm
you're
saying
right, yeah.
I saw this under the context of Bills and Ravens
Yeah.
fans going back and forth on Twitter, and a Bills fan retweeted the with the pick six and said, "Oh yeah, Lamar has thrown a
Also-
touchdown on the road," and it was the pick six.
It's only been 2 games though, right?
Yeah.
You got the Nashville game and the Buffalo game
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Someone just
So-
said on Instagram he threw one to Taron Johnson. Yeah, we know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only one he's thrown in the playoffs. Haha, funny.
There was one more thing I wanted to say about Lamar. I completely forgot to say it. Sutton, when you compared Lamar to, like, imagine if Brady ran for 800 yards. Like, I was trying to tell people this with the MVP conversation. Like, he's having the third best passing season of all time, and he ran for 800 yards. Like, it's pretty crazy. I would kind of compare it to Travis Hunter's Heisman, because I think people don't understand that Travis Hunter, they were like, oh, there's not enough production. Like, he was one of the best offensive players in the country and one of the best defensive players in the country. It wasn't like he was just doing one thing. So, like, you got Lamar being the best passer in the league this year and, like, a top 5 rusher this year. And I think some people aren't able to, like, combine those two things. And I think similar thing happened with, like, Travis Hunter and the whole Heisman situation. So I think you can kind of compare those two a little bit too. So that was the last thing I wanted to get off.
I mean, it's just there's nothing really to say about that. It's a true testament to what Lamar Jackson has become in his NFL career. We're talking about a guy who puts up prime Aaron Rodgers seasons through the air this year, and then also goes like running back 1 territory on the ground. So it's just absurd. The guy's a two-way freak and just puts up ridiculous amounts of production. It's absurd.
Yeah. Sutton, thanks so much for coming on once again. Everyone,
Yeah, for having me.
go subscribe if you're not already to the Purple Rain Podcast on YouTube. Follow Sutton Def on Twitter and Instagram. I'm always going to call it Twitter. Sorry, I'm not going to call it X. Like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on Instagram right now, feel free to go check out Charm City Sideline on YouTube. Let's see. Thanks, everyone, for being with us, talking to us in the chat tonight. Zach, Dawson, and I will be doing a Bills preview sometime on Friday. So look out for that as well. And yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of their week. And we'll see you in a few days. Peace, guys.
Peace.